Last night, the White House announced that it is forming the president's coronavirus task force. Members of that group have been meeting daily since earlier this month. Joining us right now is Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel. He is the University of Pennsylvania Vice Provost for Global Initiatives. And Zeke, it's great to see you today. We are thankful to have you here to kind of sort through what's happening. When you see the White House officially coming up with a task force on this, what does that tell you?
They're a little behind the eight ball. In May 2018, the now famous John Bolton fired Tim Ziemer, who had been placed in as the head of biodefense for the National Security Council. He's actually a person I recommended to President Trump. I thought he did a great job heading the president's malaria initiative, and he really understands the issue. But they got rid of the preparedness. I had recommended it because we were in the midst of an Ebola crisis. Pandemic flu is always a worry. And here we have, we're just reminded that almost every year or every other year, we have some major health outbreak. Given the interconnectedness of the world, we need the White House to be on top of it, and we need the White House to coordinate all the agencies that have to respond. Thankfully, the United States has the finest people at the CDC, at the NIH, under the leadership of Tony Fauci, to respond to these things. And, you know, we're already advanced in making a vaccine, although that'll be a year before it could possibly be fully tested and released. But we're responding quickly. On the other hand, there's no substitute for White House coordination, and the fact that they're distracted by impeachment and all the other things. And this is a major issue in the world, as you mentioned, preoccupying the world and maybe having a big hit on the world economy. It's a little slow, and had we had better leadership in the White House, it probably would have been much faster and much better coordinated.
Let's try to just look at it from the standpoint of where we are right now versus maybe we keep comparing China's response now to what they did back in 2003 with SARS. Where are we in terms of maybe where we were versus Ebola, or where we were back with SARS, too, in terms of our capabilities with the CDC? By
the we, if we mean the United States,
yes.
Everyone in America should take a very big breath, slow down, and stop panicking and being hysterical. And we are having a little too much histrionics about this. Let's remember, we have fewer than 10 cases in the United States. There are concentrated in 4 states: California, Washington State, Arizona, and Illinois. That's it. Most importantly, there are people coming in from China. There's been no person-to-person transmission. And it's not everyone from China. I mean, there has been
person-to-person transmission in other countries, because there are people who never traveled to China who have come down with it.
That is true, but even the maximum country is Thailand with 14 cases. So we need to be a little sober about it. Even in China, remember, China's a country of 1.4 billion people. There have been, a few 7,800 cases. That's one case for roughly, 175,000 people. Even if that's a gross underestimate by, say, 50-fold. That's one case for every 4,000 people, and a very low death rate compared to SARS. So I think we need to put it into context.
That's a very good point. If you look at just how
the death rate is much lower than for SARS.
Right. We're talking about maybe 3% at this point. I guess there's still a lot we don't know. It's still early days. It's much more virulent. It's got as many cases as we saw in SARS over 18 months. So it's spread more rapidly, but a much lower mortality rate.
I think you've put it really well. It seems to spread more easily, but it's not as virulent and not as deadly as SARS. And I think that's a very good thing. And I do think we've learned something about isolating people. They need to be isolated for 2 weeks. It's not a prolonged period of time. And I think that's really important.
Is that a problem that we're bringing people back? We brought 230 Americans back on a plane yesterday, and they're going to be isolated for 3 days just outside Los Angeles before they're released. Is that an appropriate amount of time?
Yeah, but let's be quite clear. They're all being tested for the virus.
Not all
they're
of them.
being observed.
If they choose to be tested for the virus, if they have suspicions, it's up to those people to determine whether they want to be tested.
Correct. But I think they will be tested for the virus. It's very hard to see how someone is going to say no.
Right.
And I think the other factor, there are some defined symptoms, and it is true people have been identified to transmit it without defined symptoms. And it is a 2-week incubation period totally. So I'm actually pretty confident that we're going to restrict the spread in the United States. And people should remember not to panic. If people from China have been here for 2 weeks, they're not going to be spreading it.
Great.
And the best thing we have is the seasonality. It's going to go down as spring comes up.